So you upgraded your precon, and it still feels clunky, or like it's not running smoothly. Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. And let's just jump into it. So, you've gotten to the point where you have a precon that you like. You have upgraded it, and you're thinking that it should be running smoother, but you're still having clunky games, or games where it's not feeling super smooth. I'm here to talk to you about really one of the main problems I've noticed. And this is really just one point. There's so many things about precons that need to be upgraded or changed. But I'm here to talk to you about one that I think is the silent killer. And it doesn't show itself as super readily apparent or like you should just see it. It takes actually looking a little deeper to see this. I'm talking to you about the 4 and 5 drops. 4 mana and 5 mana cards in your precon or in your deck in general, if you've built it. Like, it doesn't even have to be a precon, any deck. If you have a deck that is slam-packed full of 4 drops, you are not going to have a smooth game. Because you're going to draw 4 drops on turn 1, on turn 2, on turn 3, and you're not going to have 1 and 2 drops and 3 drops to play early game. And you're not going to be able to play anything until the 4th turn of the game? No, you don't want that. But it's not, I mean, no one's playing nothing but 4 drops, but if you play a ton, and I see this all the time in precons, they will jam a ton of cards, and 4 drop is like the slot where they just think that if a card is any kind of decent, but it's not necessarily 5 drop, they just slot it into 4 drop, and they're like, this is where it goes. And while that's not always terrible, it is when they fill the precon with 4 drops and 5 drops and 6 drops even. I've seen decks with a ton of 6 drops. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, there's no way I'm going to cast all these. There's no way I'm going to draw 3 6 drops and be able to cast them. Like, my hand's going to be cluttered. There's nothing I can do about that. You need to take a look at your mana curve. So what do we mean when we say mana curve? So when you're looking at the mana curve of your deck, you look at how many cards you have in the deck that cost 1 mana to play. You look at how many cards you have in the deck that cost 2 mana to play. And you do this for each mana slot until you've gone through everything. And then you look at the amount you have of each. So let's say you only have 3 cards in your deck that cost 1 to play. You have 12 cards that cost 2 to play, and then a metric ton that costs 3 and 4 to play. You're going to be in a bad spot. You want to even out that curve a little bit and have more stuff leaning on the earlier side of the game as opposed to the later. You want to have more things to play, because here's the thing. You don't necessarily want to play a card that costs the amount of mana that you have that turn. So like on turn 1, play a 1 drop, turn 2, play a 2 drop, but then turn 3, you don't have to play a 3 drop, you can play a 1 drop and a 2 drop. Double spell. Get more value. Like, not always, but that's an ideal situation. So you don't want to over clutter your deck with cards that cost too much, or as precons come, you don't want to run the deck with cards that are mediocre that just cost too much. Now, there are cards that are good, but there are cards that are better. One of the biggest problems I think a lot of players have is learning when to cut, which is why I made a video about that on what you should cut first. But no one knows what to cut, and then sometimes they don't know what to add. They'll just see a card that looks cool and jam it in there, and that's fine. But if you want it to be better, if you're playing games, so I don't know how often you get to play, or what your play group looks like, or what situation you're in. I don't know the details of that. But if you want to have better commander games where you feel like you're doing something the entire time, you're going to want to assess that 4 and 5 drop slot. Sneakily, you probably want to run less 3 drops. And here's the sad part. The sad part is that 1 drops and 2 drops that are good are expensive. They're not cheap. People crazy out here, let me tell you. But yeah, they're not cheap. So you don't want to just fill your deck with 1 drops anyway. You don't want to have no high end. You want to have stuff to play at the high end, but you don't want to fill your deck with them so much that that's all you draw early game. And that's a mistake that a lot of players make. That's not even a mistake they make. Sometimes it's just they don't even understand. They don't know. They just bought a precon and are playing out the box, and it's just full of cards that cost way too much, and you'll never cast them. You might cast 1, but that's it, and it's not fun. It is not fun sitting down at a table to play Commander. Everybody else is playing their turns, and then it gets to your turn, and you are like, well, I don't have anything I can cast. I'm going to play a land and pass. You don't want to do that. That's not fun. You're gonna burn yourself out of Commander if that's what the kind of games you're playing. You want to be able to do things. You want to be able to play cards. Why do you play Commander? To play cool cards. That's what we're here for, right? That's what it's about. So in order to be able to do that, you have to take a look and assess, okay, so what do I need to cut from this deck, or what do I need to change, or what do I need to assess in order to make it better? And I'm telling you right now, the 4 and 5 drops in your Commander deck are probably cluttering your deck up a little bit. There's a lot of good cards out there that cost 4 and 5 mana, and I'm not here to say that all of them should be cut, but you should not be playing more 3 and 4 drops than anything else in your deck. Like, that number should be conservative. Let's just call it that. You should be conservative with your 3 and 4 drops. I think that, not 3 and 4 drops, 4 and 5 drops. Sorry. 3 drops you can play a little more of. And obviously, the more lower cost of stuff you can squeeze into your deck, the better off it's going to be, because you have the more opportunity to cast them. And that's the thing. Like, in a game of Commander, each person's turn is gonna play out differently. So not everybody's gonna play the same amount of things each turn. And one thing that you'll notice the more games of Commander that you play is that the more cards that you cast, the better off you are. And the player that is casting the most spells, playing the most things, or going back to that rectangle theory we talked about, whoever has the most rectangles on their battlefield is probably in the winning state. Now, that's not guaranteed, but at lower power levels, or like entry level to precon games, like, yeah, whoever has the most stuff is probably winning. And this is why people play board wipes, because they get behind and they just don't have a way to catch up. But you just want to make sure that you have things that you can play. So being able to play more things is going to do more for you than playing a bunch of 4 and 5 drops that you aren't even going to be able to afford. So that's something to consider when you're putting your decks together, or when you're upgrading. I know there's a lot of good precons out there. They have been really stepping up the precon game. I'm not here to trash precons. They're good. They are solid. They work. The game plan is consistent. The theme is there. Like, it's undertone and themes like that, like sub themes or whatever. Like, they got it all going on. Precons are lit, especially lately. But they still jive in some cards that you can probably cut, and you can probably cut them pretty easily, and you're gonna feel better, because that 7 drop that isn't even that good, you're gonna cut that 7 drop and you're gonna put in a 3 drop, and you're gonna draw it, and you're like, oh man, I remember if I had drawn this as a 7 drop, I wouldn't be able to play it for 4 more turns, but I can play this now. That's good. You want to be able to draw things that you can play. And another thing too is that, like, there are cards out there that are 4 and 5 mana that you can find like cheaper alternatives of. Like, you can find a good alternative of these cards that cost this much, and they might not do the exact same thing, but you can find alternatives. There's definitely options out there. So when you're putting your deck together, when you're preparing to upgrade it, or when you're sitting down to play a game and you're trying to figure out what the problem is, I promise you, if you'll just take a look at your 4 and 5 drops, that you will notice that if you had less of those and a few more things that costed a little less, your deck would just run smoother. Something to think about. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it gave you some good insight. Please leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you thought, or let me know what you would like to see in a future video. I would love to hear your input. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I plan to make these daily, if at all possible. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.